Hello, and welcome to the podcast where good trivia gets rewarded and bad lies are punished. This is What's the Fact?
Yes. Will they catch the lies? I don't think so. They'd have to be sharp like an assassin. My name's Ryan Whistle. This is Warren Robertson. And you know the name of today's show.
If anything, you get worse at introducing the topic
Yeah.
each week. Just like,
Yeah. It's supposed to get better.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah. Are you dressed like an assassin?
Yes.
I
Isn't
always
this
hesitate.
Assassin's Creed? Never played it. Have you played it?
I have, and it's exactly Assassin's Creed. If instead of an assassin inside the hood, it was a pervert.
Right. Nice. I like it. But it's a fun topic tonight.
Yeah. Look, I mean, let's be honest. Assassinations. Who doesn't love an assassination? But yeah, no, I always hesitate to ask you when you're dressed up as something exactly what you've come as, because it tends to be disappointing. Before this podcast started, I was talking to my son, and I asked him. So we came up. He asked me, but what is the plural of Bigfoot?
Oh, wow.
I mean, this has got nothing to do with assassination, but I want to know, what's the plural of a Bigfoot?
It's a good question.
It's got to be Bigfoots, right? It's got to be Bigfoots.
Yeah, because you're inclined to go big feet.
You're right. Everybody wants to go big feet, but surely it's Bigfoots.
Yes.
I mean, or Bigfoot. Maybe it's like fish.
Why
One fish, many fish.
Is he keen on seeing a Bigfoot?
Yeah. No, I mean, all kids are keen on seeing mystical, magical beings.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
And how big is the foot?
Yeah.
Like, it can't be more than 12 inches.
It was a great movie. Was
there a movie called Bigfoot?
in the 80s? Yeah.
I thought that was Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway,
I think it was. But he was
got
a
nothing
Bigfoot.
to do with assassins. So let's get on to assassins, and the assassinated.
I'd like to start off. It's my turn. I just wanted to make sure I got the dude's name.
Okay.
Not the dude who was killed, because I got him. He's got a strangely Italian name. We're starting off.
Is that because he's Italian? Just checking.
Actually, no.
No.
So my first fact is about a very hectic assassination in the early days of assassinations. Okay, there was Abe Lincoln and all that. I don't know when he was.
The early days of assassination.
They weren't that
Hang
good.
on, wait.
They weren't that. No, mind you. I know. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, this oak's got an entire empire. No, you've got.
No, but how did you decide what the early days of assassination are? If you thought 1800s, that's the early days. That's the cutoff.
Using the old gun.
I see.
This one's got a gun.
Usage?
There's
Okay.
a gun.
Usage.
So it was a hugely significant assassination because it led to the biggest war known to man at that stage. I'm talking about Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
All right.
The dude who was going to become, I guess, emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
I was convinced you were going to say Donald Trump.
Because
who knows when people are watching this? Maybe they're watching this 10 years from now, Ryan, and then Archduke Franz Ferdinand is ancient history, and the assassination of Donald Trump has sparked absolute pandemonium in the world.
Right, dude with buffalo horns.
Yeah.
No, he's a trumpeter.
Yeah. He is. But he might come out of prison bitter. Who knows? We don't know how it started. We're projecting into the future now. I can't
Probably
imagine.
be a cross-dressing dude who's going to give it to old Donald.
Good for him. Good for him. Go for it, cross-dressing dude.
So, do you know your history? Do you know what happens here with Franz Duke?
Yeah.
So he was visiting Sarajevo, and there was a lot of tension in the world, and a lot of treaties being signed, basically two kind of things of power. So you're visiting Sarajevo, and it was a Serbian organization called the Black Hand Organization, and they decided they're going to take him out because of nationalism. I don't think they wanted to be part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire anymore, and there was Slavic nations. Romanians were a different nation. There was even more different ones, even Germans.
Okay.
And so tension everywhere. And the sad thing is he was driving on a parade, because he's the Archduke with his wife, through Sarajevo. And the first attempt was a mere hand grenade. Thrown it. Oh, shit.
Hand grenade.
Yeah, and then it landed underneath the third vehicle in the little cavalcade and exploded, and people were injured. And then he got to the hotel and he's like, is this how you greet us with a bomb? Ha ha. Not funny. And then he decided before his next appointment, this is where it gets a bit tragic. He wants to go and see the wounded in the hospital. So they take a different route. But they didn't tell some of the other people in the cavalcade that they're taking a different route. And so they turned off. And then there was a bit of a traffic jam because of the miscommunication. And this is the tragedy is one of the dudes in the Black Hand organization, because the crowds in Sarajevo are all waiting to see the France. He's just at a delicatessen. And he's like, oh my, hello. And his car stalled, the France Duke's car stalled. And he said, well. He had a gun in his hand. And he shot the Archduke and his wife. And they both died within a few minutes. It was all quite tragic. People literally overheard exactly what they said. And there's an account of the things they said to each other. And don't die, live for the kids, darling. Like, but I'm not hurt. Oh, shit's blood. Not really. But it was something like that. Then.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess you want a fact, hey?
At some point, yeah.
So the dude, he was 19. His name was Gavrilo
Princip.
Yes. Yeah. But Serbian.
Yeah.
And my fact is this, that because the nature of it, and of course the, declaration of wars the tension was growing. The nature of it is he was arrested, tried, and executed the very next day. Well, he was arrested on the day, tried and executed the very next day. That's my fact.
Oh, I don't know what happened to Gavrilo Princip.
Yeah.
Damn, I was hoping you were going to ask his name. His somewhat Italian name, allegedly.
Yeah, Serbian.
Yeah,
but it does sound Italian, eh?
I heard he was feeling pretty dejected at the time. That he was in the deli buying himself a sandwich to feel better because he failed at his assassination. And then the dude just drove straight past him again.
Well, I think there was another guy who threw the hand grenade. So there's a team of oaks along there.
But Gavrilo was just there, like as you do, when you're a bit sad, go to the fridge.
I'm a comfort eater.
Yeah.
Gavrilo.
So Gavrilo
nice
must have been a bit of
sandwich,
a comfort eater.
A nice salami,
yeah.
mayonnaise, gherkins. It'll make you feel better.
Yeah, some sort of cheese, you would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, he's probably in there like getting himself a coffee and a really big sandwich at the deli. and then, hello, who should happen past?
Oh, yeah.
Old Big Ed himself. Easy shot. Easy shot.
It's my lucky day.
Yeah, driving around in an open-topped car as well.
Yes.
Yes, people are trying to assassinate you. You're driving around in an open-top car. You have balls like this.
I must say, our history teacher in Standard 7, he did an awesome thing. He's like, it was a small, dusty old classroom, but he was passionate about history, Mr. Canova, and he had like globes and old maps and everything. And actually, the old maps covered the windows, so it was like a dark, dusty little old room. And he had those old railway desks, they called them, where it's like attached to the desk.
Oh, yeah.
We still had those. Yeah. And he took the one, and he took two of them, and there were the cars in the cavalcade driving around the streets of Sarajevo.
I mean, he must have just seen what is that movie with Robin Williams? The Dead Poets Society.
Oh yes, I think so.
Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be Robin Williams from Dead Poets Society.
Excellent. And he had the positions of the assassins and that guy, the hand grenade dude, and then there was another guy who just got nervous and decided not to have a crack. And then it was Gavrilo getting a sandwich
at 19.
Yeah, so you know that. Did I mention 19 or did you mention?
You mentioned that. But now the thing is, at 19, don't ever think that you're too young. You can make the history books. All you have to do is be prepared to kill a lot of people, like anyone. If you get to 75 and you think my life has been a waste, no one's gonna remember me. Yes, all you have to do is just kill someone famous.
Legacy, man.
Yes, pick somebody, anyone famous. Like Fakir Mbalula. I'm not saying.
My upcoming fact. Oh, my upcoming
really?
fact
Okay.
Is
Let's not throw too much forward. Let's deal with this. I don't know when he was executed. I don't know if he was executed. I suspect he was, though. I think he was arrested.
Yeah. So my fact was the next day tried and executed the next day. And your final answer is?
I suspect he was. Yeah.
No, I'm lying. He wasn't executed. He was arrested immediately. But the age thing, 19, meant that he didn't face execution, capital punishment.
Yet another reason why you've got to write yourself into the history books young.
Yes. Shame, man.
They won't even execute you.
He did, however, it's a tragic story. He died 3 years later in prison. Malnutrition and tuberculosis and just terrible circumstances, and he just died. But he had an interesting philosophy toward the end. He was like, hey, it wasn't me that caused the First World War, okay? It was going to happen anyways, okay? So don't everyone look at me.
I mean, the fact is that the way the treaties were all set up, he's probably right.
Domino effect.
There's almost certainly something else would have kicked it all off, because it was a bit of a house of cards waiting for a gust of wind, really.
Yeah.
But anyway, he killed millions of people, really. He didn't just kill Archduke Franz Ferdinand at the end of the day. He killed millions of people.
Oof, yeah.
That's why we remember the name Gavrilo Princip.
Oh, dear, right.
Yeah. All right, I've got a quick fast one to start things off. You were saying I'm going back to ancient history of assassination. I'm going to back the classic Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire, they loved themselves a bit of an assassination. And here's my fact. My fact is that they loved themselves an assassination so much that of the 77 emperors who ruled between 27 BC and AD 476, 77 of them, 33 were assassinated or executed.
Yeah, I'm busy watching this series on Netflix called, I forget what it's called, Rome, maybe. Okay. But it's a docu-drama.
Oh, so it probably is Rome.
Yeah, a little bit of...
sexy stuff.
Yes, sexy stuff. Because it's dramatized. Right. Even the sexy stuff is dramatized.
Right.
And the first season I watched, or whatever, I don't know how many seasons are, but what is it? Caligula. Oh, what a fascinating... They called him the Mad Emperor. Now I'm watching... basically Marcus Aurelius' son. But
Commodus.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
But my word, in the Caligula vibe, the changing of power is just so frightening, because when you got to get close to the emperor, because you got to be next in line, because if whoever's next in line, if something happens to the emperor and you didn't quite crack the next in line nod, watch your back, pal. Even if it's your sister, it's just horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that handover of power from Nero, right? Like Nero, they hated Nero, and they were like all this, like they were going to plot against Nero, and then Nero says he denounces this leader in the Lyon area of France, and he says to him, he says, no, you're out, and this guy takes a chance, and he says, no, I'm not out, because you're not the emperor. The emperor's really this Spanish general.
Oh,
and all the other guys go, yeah, it's the Spanish general. He's the leader. So now Nero's like, what? No, hang on, this isn't fair. So then he hears that the Senate are talking about, what's his status, where's he going to be. So he's sitting at home and he's panicking. He's thinking he's got to commit suicide. He's wandering around and he can't find any of his guard. They've all gone.
Oh!
So he starts saying to himself, uh-oh. So he goes and he looks for his favorite gladiator who is living in the palace at the time. He's going to ask this guy to help him commit suicide.
Oh, my word.
So he goes to find this gladiator, can't find even this guy. So he's like, oh, no. So now he's freed a slave some years earlier. So he thinks, I'm going to sneak out. I'm going to go to this guy's house and I'm going to hide out. And he
is this Nero?
This is Nero.
My word!
And he sneaks out of the palace, riding on his horse with a disguise on, and somebody recognizes him and salutes him anyway. So then he abandons the horse and he goes into the bush and he crawls his way to this guy's house, scravels into the guy's house, hides in a small pantry room, and then apparently hears hoofbeats outside and assumes this is the people come to get him, and eventually plucks up the courage to stab himself in the throat. I mean, that's the end of Nero. But now here's the thing. So now the Spanish general, the guys that said no, he's the real emperor. He goes and becomes emperor, and then he gets assassinated relatively quickly. He's walking somewhere, and guys in cavalry come past, and with their swords swinging at him. Varying accounts. Some say that he pissed himself. Some say that he offered them money not to kill him. But most of the accounts say he raised his neck and said, "Do what you have to do if you think it's right for Rome."
Jeez.
Yeah, but this is one after the other. So anyway, but 33 of 77.
Yeah.
So that is as I say, that's quite an assassin-heavy period. That period there.
I'm inclined to actually believe it could be true, just because both little stories I watch, which is around one emperor at a time and maybe one transfer of power, it's just bloodthirsty. and it's like, if you're a member of the populace, it's like we wait for the next election to see which political party will get in power.
Why? This is a question I've been... Look, the longer load shedding drags on, the more I'm like,
it's like, Guedes dead. Oh, really? Yeah. No, well, there's a new guy. What happened to Gwyneth? Well,
Yeah.
we don't know.
Ah, he threw himself onto his Praetorian guard.
So it's just like you're just hearing, oh, is he the next cat? No, he's not. Oh, he was supposed to be, but it's his sister now because she's close cousins with a kind of lieutenant. Oh, where's the brother? We don't know.
Ramaphosa's son is next in charge. That's fine. He'll stabilize the ship. But Zuma's back, and Zuma's executing people now. Yeah,
that's
anyway,
frightening. I'm inclined to actually. I know it sounds like a big number. It's close to 50%. But I'm inclined to go et tu, Brute. Et tu, Wazo. You're telling the truth.
True. It is. It is
Shucks,
true. Yeah.
it's frightening.
30 were killed by sword or dagger, and of these, 26 were killed by Roman soldiers. 5 of them were decapitated.
Jeez.
One of them, Valentinian III, was killed by German mercenaries. But yeah, there you go. So 30 of them by sword or dagger.
Oh.
I mean, because this was pre the gun, right? Like, early days of assassination. Early days of assassination. No doubt they would have used the gun.
Who wants to be emperor of Rome?
But look, there's a lot that historians have had to analyze, right? Because there's a lot of them that people were saying, oh, they've been executed, they've been poisoned to death by their wives or their daughters or whatever. And that was quite a common story to come up about guys who just died quite suddenly and naturally. So there was a belief in the society or the culture that they would have to have been poisoned by like their wives or their sisters or their mothers or whatever it was, so that rumor would spread. But it could just be that the dude died of a heart attack or he got sick or and then he got sick and then wanted to hide it, so he hid it from the people, and then it appeared to them that he died suddenly. So these rumors would start up.
Jeez,
that unpopular women had poisoned them. So, but you'll notice there, of that 33, 30 were dispatched by sword or dagger, which means that historians have basically written off most of those poisonings as being nonsense. Anyway.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, just a terrible time. Oh, a fabulous time.
Yeah, fabulous
Depends
time if you're not an emperor. Really shitty time to be a leader. Otherwise, for everyone else, probably fine.
Well, I'm going to throw it forward to another emperor, but an emperor of music.
Fucking perfect, Ryan. Perfect.
Good old. We kind of know the story, but old John Lennon. I wanted to do something about John, just because I love the Beatles very much. I'm as a person, more of a Paul guy as opposed to a John guy, but I didn't want the guy dead. No, that's terrible. Mark David Chapman. My fact is, it might be a known fact, or is it? But here's my fact. It is this. So John Lennon was killed at 10:45 p.m. But Mark David Chapman got his autograph at 5 p.m. of his latest album, which was released.
Yeah, I think that's
earlier in the day.
I know that he did get it autographed, but this might be a Ryanism. You might have changed the times.
His latest
we dealt
album.
with John Lennon's belief that his life was attached to the number 9. I'm certain there's got to be a number 9 in there somewhere, right? Has to be. Wrap it all up with a number 9. But anyway, 10:45 and 5 p.m. So 10:45 at night or 10:45 in the morning?
No, at night.
At night.
Yeah.
Awkward. So that means that this guy Chapman had been following him around like the whole evening.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's true, right? It's true.
It is true. It is true. He got his autograph earlier in the day. Signed his latest album. It was in December. I think it was 81. Actually, not sure the exact year, but I think it was 81. And the tragedy of all of that is that by January, look, the news would have helped. These things do, but his album went to number 1. So did 2 of the songs went to number 1, and it's like one of my favorite. I really love. I would probably really love that whole album if I listened to it, because it's got 2 of my favorite John Lennon solo songs on it, and it's not Imagine. That's not one of my favorites, but Imagine is huge. It's an anthem, and it's on that album. But Starting Over went to number 1 immediately. I love that. 'Cause when I see you, darling, it's like we blah, 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 and love again. It'll be Like, does it ring a bell?
It does.
Like starting over. So that was one time. And then at some point, Imagine also went there. But the other song, which is so beautiful, actually, his son, Sean Lennon, said he can't actually listen to that song. It's too sad because Sean Lennon was 5 at the time. So him and
So it couldn't have
Yoko's
been
kid.
him. It was definitely this Mark David Chapman guy.
So, but the song "Woman," yeah, which is really beautiful. Woman, da 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 da. I never meant to cause you sorrow or pain. Beautiful. That was
Yeah.
also on that album.
But also, we cancelled him for that song because he assumed her pronouns.
Fucking
yeah.
So and so I think what's sad is he had his long weekend, which we discussed on a previous podcast, but he's came back writing such beautiful music, and then this dude killed him. And I believe Yoko Ono is there every parole hearing, kind of blocking the parole, and he's going to be there forever if it's up to Yoko.
I mean, isn't that punishment enough? Once a year being forced to deal with Yoko Ono.
She comes in there, gives the judge her primal screaming, and
Yeah.
he's like, I can't, sure, Yoko, just stop, I'll do what
Just
you
have
say.
to go home. Just have to go home. I'm gonna keep it in music. I'm
Oh,
gonna keep it in
good,
music.
good,
Yeah.
good.
So you've obviously heard of the Prime Minister Michael Manley of Jamaica. Obviously,
I think so.
Prime Minister Michael Manley. Not Michael Mann. That's a musician. Michael Manley here. He was the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and he was in a big kind of political war for election one year with his rival Edward Seeger, and this thing was kind of crossing the boundaries between criminality and legitimate kind of fundraising and these sorts of things. And anyway, he organized, for instance, Michael Manley. He had a big supporter in a very famous musician by the name of Bob Marley.
Ah,
And Bob Marley,
so one of my favorites.
yeah, he would organize concerts and things for Michael Manley and all these sorts of things. And now it's believed that Bob Marley may have been one of the conspirators in the eventual assassination of Edward Seeger. So there you are.
Really?
Yeah.
Bob, as in a conspirator for the
Yeah, one of
opposition
the-
dude?
Yeah.
Yes, like.
That he at least would have been there when they were talking about assassinating him.
Is that your fact?
That's my
That's funny. I thought your fact would be on. Was Bob assassinated?
No. Bob Marley kicked a football, broke his toe, I think, and
Got gangrene.
got gangrene. Yeah.
Oh,
And he
so
died
Bob
of
wasn't
blood
assassinated.
poisoning. Yeah.
Oh, that in London.
I don't know where it happened. I don't know
Yeah.
where it happened.
Gee, that's funny, hey? Ooh, because Bob, Bob performed in Zimbabwe on the.
Zimbabwe, as they called it that year.
Yeah. It was
And actually for many years thereafter.
it was Bob's inauguration.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Bob Marley-
That's probably why they called it Zimbabwe then.
He
Not
didn't.
for Bob Marley, but more for Bob Mugabe.
Yeah, I would have liked him to. It's an occasion of freedom and
Yeah.
celebration. I would have liked him to do. Like, I don't know if he brought out Buffalo Soldier, No Woman, No Cry, and One Love, but he didn't. But he did sing Redemption Song, which is quite thematic
Right.
in the whole Zimbabwe Independence Day concert. But I do love him. And I'm trying to think about the political conspiracy. I know politicians do get involved in politics, especially in the modern day. You've got REM, have always been like Democrats. And of course, Come Together by the Beatles, back to John, was written as a campaign song for the governor of California.
Honestly?
A Democrat.
I'd always just assumed that was a Soggy Murray song about a boarding school.
Oh, they were so good at their kind of
Yeah,
paradox,
that's sort of what I thought that was
paradoxical
Yeah.
metaphors. So, but was Bob involved in that shit?
Yeah, as I say, they reckon he was one of the conspirators. That he was in the room when the assassination of this Edward Seeger was planned.
Yeah, it's like I don't want it to be true, but he was political, but I don't want it to be true. But maybe it is true, and I'll say, maybe it's true. It's true.
Yeah. So what happened is on December 3rd, 1976.
Mm-hmm.
This is the true story now. Three
Sure.
gunmen broke into Bob Marley's residential compound in Kingston, Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
and they shot at Marley's wife as they snuck in through the front gate, wounding her.
Jeez.
Before storming the rehearsal area where Bob Marley and his band were rehearsing, they shot wildly at the occupants, and Marley narrowly avoided being shot in the chest when his manager, Don Taylor, pushed him to the ground at the last second. The bullet still, however, pierced Marley's arm. Edward Seeger was never assassinated. He tried to have Marley killed for supporting the Prime Minister.
Oh.
Yeah, and it
So
failed.
is that your
And it
fact?
failed. That's the truth. So that was just a blatant lie. I just
So
made
me
up a
saying,
lie.
Bob,
I made
glad
up a
it's
lie,
a lie.
and you believed it because of racism.
I'm glad Bob wasn't
Yeah.
part of the
No,
dirty
Bob
stuff.
Bob was chill, bro.
He was
He
chilled
was chill.
because it went very much against his other stuff.
Yeah, what had happened? I mean, it was about that kind of heated up, violent political environment between Minister Michael Manley and his rival Edward Seeger, because Marley was going to play a free concert for the Prime Minister. Edward Seeger decided, is it?
Well,
Yeah,
we're talking politics and African diaspora politics, eh? Look at me using a big word. But let's take it back to the motherland, yo, to Africa, man, where there's an our story. It is time to tell our story, man. Okay.
Please, dude, just stop doing the accent. I'm big. You live in Cape Town. That's no excuse. None. None.
Okay. And there was a beautiful little thing I've got to get you. It's I've got to just. I'm going to end with something beautiful. Beautiful quote. We're talking. I went down the Chris Hani rabbit hole. You know, when I used to work in Springs, his burial site was there was a sign for it, and it was in Boksburg. And Chris Hani's assassination was at a most.
That's probably the cruelest thing they did to Bob.
Bury him in Boksburg.
Chris Hani was bury him in Boksburg. Yeah.
And so at the time, he was obviously was a potent political figure, head of the SA Communist Party. He had in his career was part of Mkhonto we Sizwe, a fascinating, passionate character, and with that communist fervor, but the desire to fight for justice. It reminded me of a bit Che Guevara-ish. You know, when he was like 12, he wanted to join Mkhonto we Sizwe, and they said, no, just play sport and study. He was like, I'm not going to play sport. I'll use all my energy to get ready for joining the ANC Youth League or Mkhonto we Sizwe, whatever was sort of allowed back then. He from the Transkei and stuff. And so as his career went to Fort Hare University, but also joined Mkhonto we Sizwe, did some fighting in Zimbabwe as well as part of the Bush War. I didn't know that Mkhonto we Sizwe were involved, but they were. He fled to Lesotho at some stage. Then he had a long time in the ANC headquarters in Lusaka in Zambia. So a hell of a career, and killed by a Polish dude, Janusz Walus. But my fact is about the implicated politician, Clive Derby-Lewis. A fascinating, weird rabbit hole to go down there. This guy's got despite having an English name, he kind of changed his name to an anglicized sort of name, but he's Afrikaner from Bloemfontein, Clive Derby-Lewis. He was the politician implicated in the assassination of Chris Hani.
So
do you remember that time period?
Yeah.
Much?
So what are you saying is his nickname, is his actual name,
Clive
his Afrikaans name? No, but his
his
Afrikaans
original?
name.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
All right. So you're not gonna try and make one up.
No.
Like Drukkus Louis.
It's probably Lapis Labuschagne.
Yeah. He chose Derby like a double-barreled
Clive
surname.
Derby-Lewis.
I don't know that anyone would voluntarily choose a double-barreled surname. No, I remember that clearly. Jeez, I mean that was
hectic,
like
because it was the negotiation time,
Yeah, well, you see, I'm young enough that sort of time period is about when I start having real kind of extended memories of life. You know?
Sure.
I start having.
You and I were both in high school. It was probably standard 7 back in the day. It was 1993.
So
Maybe 92, but probably 93. No, maybe 92. Because I remember a dude a few weeks later, the country was changing and we had black students in our school and in our hostel. And the dude had a big poster of his one quote about I'm prepared to fight for freedom even if I die doing it. And it was like, did he say that? Yeah, he said that. And it was obviously after he died.
Yeah, so my school is a bit different because I went to a private school.
Yeah, Saints was always
then,
at a
yeah,
liberal
I always had black kids in my class.
Yeah.
And they never taught us the STEM. They always taught us Nkosi Sikelel.
Wow, since
Yeah, so even like during the 80s. But as I say, like I started school 1985, so
Yeah.
I know almost nothing about apartheid. I remember very little, and what I remember is remembered with a kind of superficial memory of a very small child.
Yeah.
So there's no real, as I say, like the death of Chris Hani sort of stands out for me as being the first political occasion where I knew the weight and the implication of what this was and what was going on and what his death potentially meant for the country and all these sorts of things. And as people do when somebody famous dies, they make up jokes. So I remember like a lot of the jokes from that time period, and I remember it quite clearly. But one of the things I don't remember was whether Clive Derby Lewis was was Afrikaans, was actually called like, Jaco Stefanus de Blanche. I've got no idea. Clive, his name could be Clive Derby Lewis. Why can't nobody would pick a double-barreled surname? Why would you call yourself after Derby as well? Shitty city.
It's your soccer team,
I
man.
know, but it's a terrible city. Have you been to Derby? Not a nice place.
My soccer team's not a nice city, and they might be going down.
Generally, if it's got a good football team, if it's a city with a good football team in England, it's really
Sunderland,
not necessarily somewhere you want to live.
Sunderland.
Newcastle,
Ooh.
Manchester, Liverpool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all. I mean, Liverpool's slightly on the up and up.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but even you think like, okay, you think about Scotland, right?
Yeah.
Classic example.
Yeah.
Glasgow, bit of an industrial wasteland. Two great teams.
Yes.
Edinburgh, lovely city. Hibernian. What? So, I mean, London's just got so many teams that some of them are bound to be bound to be
They got
good.
lots.
And also because your international talent would rather live in London than in any other city in England.
Yeah.
Man, I can sense the English hate now. Come, I feed off it. Give it to me. Yeah, no, I don't think he was. I think he may have been Afrikaans, but I don't think he changed his name to Clive Derby Lewis, because Clive is a pretty shit name as well.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Shame.
Yeah, it sounds like a cheese.
Shame.
Like, would you like a slice of Clive? Okay, good. So, is it true?
No, I'm lying.
Oh,
Yeah, he is from Cape Town. He's English. He's got German and Scottish heritage. Born in Cape Town, grew up in Kimberley. Went to Christian Brothers College, Kimberley. Then at some point changed from Catholicism to Protestant
outright
Afrikaans.
evil Satanism.
Yeah, and he's a accountant. And then he went into politics, and then the National Party wasn't, hardcore right-wing enough for him, so he joined the Conservative Party. And so Chris Hani was assassinated in 1993. Even up until the 1990s, I couldn't believe this when I read it, but the Conservative Party would go on a bit of a international trip to London and talk to the Conservatives there, all in the name of, yes, we're doing this apartheid thing, but remember, communism is still the enemy. So, the weird, sad religious thing and the really terrible hatred, and even the hardcore right-wing Afrikaners in the Conservative Party were like, he is saying a lot of things that are embarrassing to us. He's just he lets slip with terrible racial slurs and terrible things. And at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, he confessed to it and went to prison, died in 2016. There was cancer toward the end. He might have got medical parole. I'm not sure. It was denied once. But an English oak from Cape Town. And that is all I have to say about Clive Derby Lewis, who gave the gun. He organized the gun for this Polish dude called Janusz Walus.
Okay. I'm not surprised though that they got away with that the Conservatives got away with going to London to talk about the red threat that was communism, because it was considered like a massive problem. Like if you talk about assassinated people, Patrice Lumumba got assassinated by the CIA because of his connections to Russia.
Oh, I see.
Just in case you haven't picked a side yet on this war, Ramaphosa. The CIA bumped him off, and actually, he's the story of one of the strangest assassination plots ever. They tried to poison his toothpaste. before they just basically bumped him off anyway. But
The CIA.
yeah, the CIA
Good
tried to
Lord.
poison his toothpaste. That was the first assassination attempt, and then later on,
Never swallow the toothpaste, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. One thing one last thing,
Yeah.
because this was so beautiful. So the thing happens, and of course we need our leaders to step up and calm us down. And Nelson Mandela, this was obviously a year before the election and before he became president. F.W. de Klerk was president, but Mandela spoke with almost this authority of the president. Back then he had a lot of authority. It was like a dual thing happening. And his little speech said, "Tonight I'm reaching out to every single South African, black and white, from the very depths of my being. A white man full of prejudice and hate came to our country and committed a deed so foul that our nation now teeters on the brink of disaster. A white woman of Afrikaner origin risked her life so that we may know and bring to justice the assassin. The cold-blooded murder of Chris Hani has sent shockwaves throughout the country and the world. Now is the time for all South Africans to stand together against those who, from any quarter, wish to destroy what Chris Hani gave his life for, the freedom of us all." Sure.
yeah, they wouldn't put that on the news now. We'd be outside the Parliament buildings with guillotines before it was finished.
So,
Anyway.
Madiba, what a man.
Yeah, good.
Lovely.
And I'm gonna get us more Coca-Cola.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, all right. Nelson Mandela, great leader.
Mm?
Opposite end of the scale, the spectrum in terms of leadership.
Mm.
You know, you'll have to go back a little bit in time for this one, but it's Edward II of England.
Oh.
And the story was always that. Well, let me present it as a fact so you can yay it or nay it. Edward II of England was assassinated with a red hot poker up his arse.
Oh, I hope that's not true. Oh, that's ghastly. I don't know much about him. I don't know the era. I don't know Jack, man. But because he's only the second, was he the confessor? Was he the confessor? Whatever the hell the confessor was. Red hot poke up his ass. I hope not. I hope it's an accident. Oh dear! Oh, I've fallen.
Yeah, like a Mr. Min bottle. the emergency. Every emergency doctor in the world has got a story about somebody coming in. Oh, I was vacuuming and I slipped and the Hoover went down my butthole. They never believe you. They never believe you. Just come clean. Just go there and say, "Oh, I put Skeletor up my butt." Can't go there and say, "Oh, I slipped and Skeletor went up my butt." Anyway, so no, he. So what you're saying is you hope that he at least was saying that he.
I'm going to say you're definitely lying. It's too rotten to be the truth. It's
I mean,
come from the bowels of your brain.
It's genuinely in historical record that this is the case, but. Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it
Okay,
as you saying it's not true.
No, that's
because
what I'm saying.
because all right, so you know this is an old fact. This is now over 700 years that we're talking about here. Well, about 700 years that we're talking here. So Edward II. Let me first contextualize him. Edward II's father was Edward I, the Longshanks.
Oh, Longshanks.
Yeah, right. So he was the one. If you've seen the movie Braveheart, he's the one that's terrorizing Scotland.
Yes.
Edward II is his in Braveheart is his
There's that son.
campy son.
Yes, and then he pushes his boyfriend out the window. Well,
Wow.
that's,
Yeah,
I don't know if that really
anyway,
happened. That was
so
a
he's
funny
the-
scene.
yeah, so
Not
he's-
funny.
But he's the second. Yeah, he's the second. He's the campy son. Is Edward II, and Edward II is largely regarded as being one of the least capable rulers of England ever, because he gave up all of his father's gains, his military gains in Scotland. Edward II is the one that lost the Battle of Bannockburn to Robert Bruce, and Scotland.
say
gained
Robert the
their-
Burns.
and then he was married. He was married to Isabella, who was the sister of
the French chick.
yeah. So, he was married to Isabella, who was the sister of the King of France, right? So quite senior, but he was also notoriously homosexual.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
So
yeah.
they old Mel Gibson got that.
Yeah.
Wasn't just a bit of drama he was
Well,
creating.
yeah. So no. So in this particular case, he He had a long love affair with a guy by the name of Piers
I'm
Gaveston.
starting to see where this is going with the old red hot poker up the.
Well, so this is
Okay,
one of the things.
Ed
But
Gaveston.
they're saying So his first boyfriend was Piers Gaveston, and he had a long relationship with Piers Gaveston. But obviously, this is now the Catholic Church are heavily enshrined in England.
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
Homosexuality is very frowned upon, and Piers, they don't like the kind of out flamboyant kind of gayness of the king. When he's married to Isabella, who's such a powerful ally, with France, the
Yes.
King of France, and so the nobles get together and they behead old Piers Gaveston. They take him away into a forest and they behead him.
Oh, shame.
And then Edward II he's deeply distraught, but he soon takes up a love affair with a guy by the name of Hugh le Despencer. And I can promise you, those nobles will have wished that they hadn't killed Piers Gaveston, because Hugh le Despencer was a bit of a bastard, to put it lightly.
Jeez.
And he treated his people badly, and he used his relationship with the king to get himself more favors, more land, more titles, to have his rivals kind of bumped off, to have them stripped of all their titles. He really he used his relationship with a very weak, because Edward wasn't, you get two opposite ends of the homosexual scale as well. You get Alexander the Great, and then Edward the Second in terms of strength of leadership. And so he was easily manipulated by Hugh le Despencer, and this caused friction, between him obviously, and his nobles.
One of his old guy, young guy kind of combo, maybe.
No, I don't think so. But so his nobles hated this guy. They all absolutely despised him, and the French king hated the fact that he was having this relationship with Hugh the Despencer when he's married to his sister.
Oh.
So there's this whole kind of scenario, and eventually it leads into kind of infighting in the court, where Edward II makes a casual kind of, he gets angry and piqued at the King of France, and he makes a law, and he says that all French people in England must be arrested.
Jeez,
And Hugh, that bastard, Le Despencer, takes this opportunity now to enact that very law and arrests Isabella, the queen of the country,
holy shit,
under that law. And then Isabella goes, "The fuck, bro?
Yeah.
like what
The
are you?
fuck?
Yeah, what are you doing?
The
Listen,
fuck?
I've been,
What you
yeah,
doing?
because she's very intelligent, very educated, very powerful woman, and she
was carrying William Wallace's
And she's-
child.
and she puts up with this relationship in a kind of pretend she doesn't see it sort of way, and then this happens, and then instead of protecting her, Edward II is like, yeah, he's just being Hugh, don't worry about it, it's fine. And so instead of her seeing him as being like a weak-willed, manipulated man,
Yeah.
she now sees him as being actively like an enemy of hers and evil. So what she does is she escapes to France, and she has her son, Edward III, brought to her in France. And then from there, she starts denouncing Edward II.
Ooh.
So now Edward is in a bit of trouble because the nobles don't like Edward. They don't like Hugh, and they're ready to basically revolt at any second.
Shit.
Isabella works this out. She puts together a very small army of mercenaries, because she works out that if she lands with Edward III in her entourage, it's highly unlikely the nobles are going to side with Edward II to defend him and come and fight her. So she goes and she lands there, and she takes Edward and she's right.
The wee baby.
The nobles, the nobles led her totally alone. So much so that she arrives at London, and Edward is totally surprised. She's a few miles outside of London with her army before Edward even knows it's happening. And he and Hugh escape, and they charge off for Hugh's castles in the south of Wales, and on horseback, the two of them. And there starts like a manhunt. And Isabella and her people start hunting the two of them and to come and try and find them. And for a while, they get bounced between allies and different castles in the south of Wales. But eventually, one rainy, windswept night, they get hunted down and caught out on the moors somewhere. And within the next few days, Hugh le Despencer is hung, drawn, and quartered, while Isabella watches eating a fine meal. So this is her ultimate revenge for him. But what happens with Edward now becomes a bit interesting, because they don't really know for sure. They know, for instance, that he initially gets given he gets treated like a captive. He abdicates about a year later in January 1327, in favor of his 14-year-old son Edward III.
Wow.
And then he's named Sir Edward of Carnarvon and incarcerated. And there's like a regency council is set up with Isabella on the council, the king's mother, and Isabella is the king's mother, and her right-hand man, who's Roger Mortimer, her new boyfriend. And they try and decide what they're going to do with Edward. And he's moved from castle to castle. He goes from Kenilworth Castle to Berkeley Castle. And then while he's at Berkeley Castle, suddenly there's an announcement that he's died. Suddenly he's dead. And people start talking, oh, he's died of natural causes. And it gets reported to the Parliament that he's died of natural causes. And nobody's really certain what happens, except that now essentially the country accepts that he's dead. Nobody says anything kind of untoward. But 3 years later, reports start coming out that perhaps there was something more to his death than simple, keeling over with a heart attack. The initial reports sort of said, the Peterborough Chronicle says he was well in the evening but dead by the morning. The Lanercost says he died by natural causes or violent means, and this is only 3 years later. Yeah. So then the story about the red hot poker in his butt doesn't start coming out until 1350, which is 23 years after his death. The Long Brute, which is a big report, says, as the king lay and slept, the traitors, false forsworn against her, and comes Prulich, I'm not sure, into the king's chamber, and her company with ham and laden on huge table upon his womb, and with men pressed and held fast about the corners of a table upon his body. So basically people hold him down to a table.
Oh dear.
Wherewith the good man awoke, and saw Dred to bend dead there, and he was slain. And they turned his body upside down, and they took the false Tyrannunts, I don't know what that is, and as wood traitors, a horn, and they put the horn into his fundament, as deep as they may, and then they took a speat of copper, brenning, so burning copper poker,
me.
and put it through the horn into his body, and oft times then rolled there with his bowels, and so they quelled her lord, that nothing. So that's how they describe it.
Holy
so they say
guacamole.
So the story is that they did it to him so that he would be dead with no sign, no kind of outward sign of his demise. So they put this horn in his rectum.
So they're suggesting that's how he died, as opposed to they killed him first, then they.
No. So they're saying, this is what would have killed him. Well, this is how this thing kind of goes. There's another account. A guy by the name of Higden writes down, a hot brosh put through the secret place posterior. Yeah, but
oh my!
now they seized upon him as he lay on his bed, and with the aid of enormous pillows and a weight heavier than that of 15 substantial men, they pressed down upon him until he was suffocated, and with a plumber's red-hot iron inserted through a horn leading to the inmost parts of the bowel, they burned out the respiratory organs beyond the intestines, taking care that no wound should be discernible on the royal body. But now, so this happens. These things only come out a few years later, and as you say, because of the homosexuality rumors, they've kind of taken hold. They sort of say, oh, well, of course people did this. But there's a lot to it that, apart from the fact that the stories come out years later, that makes it sound a bit kind of odd, because, you could hold a guy down and you could put a hot poker up his butt. But Mortimer, who's alleged to have killed him, Isabella's new boyfriend, he was an experienced soldier, and he knew that, injuring the bowel is not a quick death. It's not a fast death. So that's why this later report says they shoved it all the way up into his lungs. But yeah, so that's a later kind of addition.
Yes, that is rough.
Yeah, and they say that he wouldn't have died quickly, and then they said that the embalmer would have noticed that this had happened to his
Hang on a
innards.
second,
Yeah, that his innards had all been stirred around with a hot poker, but nobody ever mentioned that before. So now we're at the point where most of history has believed the story of Edward II ends. Did he? Didn't he? Was he executed? Did they smother him with a pillow? That would have been probably a lot easier than putting a horn up his knot while he struggled. So that's where we are for most of history. But then a more recent theory has been put forward by a historian by the name of Ian Mortimer that gives a totally different and yet really simple explanation for why these reports might have been confused, and also why Edward III might have failed to prosecute Sir John Maltravers, who was the one responsible for looking after Edward II during that time. So he was never prosecuted, this guy. And why would you not, if your dad had been assassinated with a horn up his butt, you'd probably punish the jailer who was supposed to be looking after him. But that didn't happen. And what Ian Mortimer says is Edward II was never assassinated at all, and that he wasn't in fact dead in 1327.
Oh.
That in fact he carried on living for a number of years until at least 1330. He says there's a lot of reason for this. He says that the news of the king's death arrived rather suddenly, apparently from Lord of Berkeley. But the Lord of Berkeley in 1330 said he'd never heard the story. He'd heard it for the first time when everyone else heard it. So where did the story actually originally come from? And that's where most of the kind of tales draw from, is that original story that the Lord of Berkeley allegedly told. So then there's more to it, right? So it was held as fact at the time that he died, based on that one simple thing. And that's hundreds of documents now all use that one simple thing to kind of attest to this particular death. But there's more, right? So it says, first, there's Lord Berkeley's own testimony, which implies that the king could still have been alive in 1330, right? So he himself tells a story of one. He says, second, there's an original letter from a highly regarded Archbishop of York that states that the latter had received certain news that Edward was still alive in January 1330, and the Archbishop consequently made efforts to rescue him. Third, there's evidence that Lord Pesh took part in a plot to free Edward from Corfe Castle in Dorset in 1330.
Yeah.
And this is significant because Lord Pesh had been in charge of that castle from 1325 to 1329. So he had the means of knowing whether or not Edward II was in fact alive.
And he's a former king, man. Come on.
Right. Fourth, the Earl of Kent, Edward II's respected half-brother, was sentenced to death in Parliament for trying to rescue Edward from Corfe Castle and make him king again in March of 1330. So the fact that this dude even died in 1327 is now highly up, let alone with a red hot poker up his
ass.
Yeah, I mean, there's more.
Flaming things being
right.
sent into his system on his foot candles.
Yeah, so this is why there was so much confusion, because potentially he wasn't even dead. I mean, it goes on. Fifth, there's an extant copy of a letter written by the secretary of Luca Fieschi, a friend of Edward II, who claims to have met him in disguise of a pilgrim at the papal court in 1331. This letter gives a detailed version of Edward's account, telling of how he had been taken by his jailer from Berkeley to Corfe Castle, and then sent to Ireland and only released after the fall of Roger Mortimer, the man who dethroned him. There are at least 3 other information streams that attest to Edward's survival after 1330.
Homophobia. Must be.
Well, so, I mean, taken together, all of these things seem to suggest that essentially people believed he was dead, and Edward III went, you know what? It's better that way. It's just, he's no longer a threat to me then.
Sure.
Because anybody who shows up and says that they're my dad, I can be like, no, he's not. It
my dad's got a red hot poker shoved up his ass.
Yeah, and nobody has to shove a red hot poker up of anybody's ass. It doesn't have to happen. So yeah, the chances are.
But they did love them a bit of blood and gore back in the day, hey?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you say that. You watch Rome, we all love a bit of blood and gore. That's what being humans about. But yeah, so it's interesting. One of the most famous assassinations of all time. It's certainly in the top 5 deaths of English royalty. If you think about how English royals died, you're probably thinking Charles I, who was beheaded during the Revolution. Yeah, and then maybe Edward, maybe the arrow in the eye of the Norman king during the 1066.
His name was Harold, eh?
Harold,
yeah.
So, you're looking in terms of epic deaths.
Yeah.
The red hot poker up the bottom, it's a big one. and it turns out that probably none of it's true.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that history and the way it unfolds. Like I read a book once called "Why Alfred Burned the Cakes," and there was that famous story. But it turns out the guy, the historian who writing at the end of the day, says he probably didn't. There's probably no such thing.
Well, there's that thing that they say, with George Washington as well. They say,
Oh, yes.
"Oh, did George Washington? What? I cut down the cherry tree, Father. I cannot tell a lie." And they're like, "That thing never happened. Never happened. It's just nonsense."
But you're talking history and power and assassinations and Rome, and
Rome.
when you get close to power, you better watch your back. And there's another place, not just Rome, where that sort of power grabs every year happens and people are taken out. They're literally assassinated left, right, and center. I'm not talking about ancient Rome. No, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about modern day KwaZulu-Natal, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite horrendous. There was a report in 2013 that since 1994 there'd been 450 political assassinations in KwaZulu-Natal.
Honestly, I'm for it. I wish all politicians would just assassinate one another on a constant basis. Get rid of the whole damn lot of them, because there've been nothing but problems in this country since the very beginning. We don't we need somebody sensible now.
Yeah, we need a king.
We need somebody. No, look, our kings haven't been a lot better, to be perfectly honest.
No.
But we certainly don't need our politicians. Let them. Long may they assassinate one another, is what I say.
And so the problem is very much regional, but it's not the only region that has experienced great problems. And there has been sporadic assassinations in other. I mean, just within the last month in Cape Town, the ANC dude who was famously before the World Cup took Wee and Pooh to the airport. He's been
gunned down in a police station of all places.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's like, so I think, I was gonna make this my fact, but no, I'll give it to you as a truth. The problem is becoming so noticed internationally. Reports have it that there's now been 1,000 assassinations and attempted assassinations in South Africa political ones, since 1994, and it was brought up as a matter of discussion at the United Nations, which I think is quite sweet of them. Hey, what's happening there? But my fact is this: there is another province that is in second place. Oh, a way distant second, but it's a significant amount of assassinations compared to all the rest. It's not even close to KZN. But the other province, of course, is Mpumalanga. That's my fact.
I think you're wrong. I think it's Western Cape. No, I think it's Western Cape. I think the DA are offing each other in vast numbers.
What's that Italian lady? She
Natasha Mazzoni.
She's taking them out.
Yeah.
She's just taking them out.
She's known as the wedding executioner. She just shows up at your wedding with a large machine gun.
They say when she comes to power, it's gonna just change to the red party. It's just the colours will change from
blood
blue.
Will run in the streets. There'll never be a shortage of liquid in Cape Town ever again. Yeah. Look, Mpumalanga is ruled a little bit like a mafia state, if the New York Times are to be believed, because they obviously they did a whole article on Didi Mabuza and sort of his criminal empire. But I do think you're trying to lead me astray. I think it's probably somewhere a lot more innocuous and boring. Like, I imagine if I lived in the Northern Cape, I'd be like gagging for some entertainment. And executing my political opponent would be a good Friday night out, like that'd be, hey Oaks, let's go kill Barry. The
Barry,
mayor.
to fuck him up.
Yeah, the mayor. Yeah, man, let's go fuck him up.
Why was Barry Minnar assassinated in Northern? No, he looked at my chick, man. He looked at my chick, so we moved there.
Yeah, but you Oaks moved him last week as well, and the week before. Did he also look at? Yeah, he was looking at my chick then too. Just moved him. I reckon no, but I hope that it's all 8 of the provinces are close to KwaZulu-Natal. I hope that they are butchering politicians and dragging them behind their buckies throughout the land.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I'm no revolutionary. I'm no Robespierre here. I'm just using my small platform to call for change.
Well, It is a rare occasion, but indeed I am telling the truth. It's in Mpumalanga, who's way above every other province, but not nearly as close to KZN. But what's troubling, if you look at the dates of some of the political killings, KZN and in Mpumalanga, the dates get very weirdly like 2010, 2011, 2010, 2011. And that's a really unsettling stat.
It's the World Cup.
Yes. I was thinking more who's the president and who's the premier of
Fair
Mpumalanga.
enough.
But unsettling. Maybe why? Yeah, they're also trying to answer that question. Leadership. Well, it's easy to say lack of leadership. It's got something to do. They believe that the whole taxi industry has got this sort of culture of taking oaks out if they mess with the power oaks at the top, and so with the kind of adoption of that mentality and it's spilling over into the politics. They're blaming this sort of taxi way of doing things.
I don't care what the reasons are. They must just do it. Kill each other with next to no reason. I don't care. If someone is in politics, let's deal with it. All right. Yeah. Good. I'm gonna bring in mine, which is about high profile political assassination. That of Arabic revolutionary Osama bin Laden.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you know,
I have got to tell you, I've seen the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, you're talking about Zero Dark 30?
Yes, one of my favorite movies of all time.
No, I'm not gonna talk about the events of Zero Dark 30 and the actual fact that did they kill him? Did they not? Did they dump his body over the sea? Who knows? I don't want to talk about the conspiracy theory. I just want to assume that the events of Zero Dark 30 are 100% correct, and I want to talk about something else. The assassination, the lead up to the assassination of Osama bin Laden, gave rise to anti-vaxxers, and that is my fact.
Oh, that is an odd fact. The lead up to the assassination
of Osama bin Laden, and I'm calling it an assassination because
sure,
like mob hit would probably be more accurate. But
so I think there's what you might be digging at is there's a conspiracy theorist who around COVID started looking at big pharma and saying, oh, all this crap, and then he also maybe he had a bit of a history, which was, did they really find Osama bin Laden?
Oh, you're saying it's all connected
via
through the same conspiracy network.
Yes, maybe.
I see.
What's that? You spoke about it, QAnon, hey? QAnon, Oaks, and I'd say... So
no, I'm going to tell you.
Maybe I would say that's the reason.
No, I'm going to say it's the direct actions leading up to is my fact, not some
anti-vaxxers.
The direct actions leading up to the assassination of Osama bin Laden
led to anti-vaxxers.
Led directly to anti-vaxxers.
No. This is a falseness. You're making things up again, Warren.
Oh, I have been enjoying doing that, but this unfortunately is not that situation. Let me tell you what happened. Yeah, no, let me tell you. Don't worry about the assassination itself. Don't get distracted by the brutal death of Osama bin Laden. Rather, let's talk about the CIA and how they go about kind of doing things. What the CIA had to do in that area when they kind of got an inkling that Osama bin Laden was living there was they had to get DNA of his, and they had to prove that Osama bin Laden was there. So how are they going to do it? What they did was they recruited a Pakistani doctor by the name of Shakil Afridi to run a door-to-door polio vaccination campaign in Abbottabad with the hope of getting close enough to bin Laden to extract a DNA sample.
Oh.
So then they went door-to-door and they did all of this, and the plan didn't work. They didn't actually manage to get the DNA sample, but it's had a huge effect on the general region itself. Health workers now really struggle getting vaccines to people because they don't trust why the vaccines are there. They don't trust why anybody's administering the vaccines.
Oh my word!
In both Pakistan and Afghanistan, because if a vaccine campaign has been used as a cover for espionage before, why wouldn't it be used as a cover for espionage again?
Oh, so Pakistan really had a problem.
Yeah. So vaccination workers have actually been murdered, and the Taliban has announced a ban on vaccination in Pakistan's tribal regions. And this ban apparently remains in effect until the U.S. drone strikes end.
Jeez, like.
Yeah, so there you are. So it directly gave rise to
Sure.
anti-vaxxers. Just not the anti-vaxxers you were thinking of.
No.
Not those morons of other. No, if you have the vaccine, you'll be dead within a year. And now a year later, no, we said 2 years. We always said 2 years. Another year later, no, we said 5. Come on, Oaks. We never said 1 year. We
These
said
things
5.
take a time. They
5
take a
years.
while. The
Yeah.
iron to get
No,
into your
no, if you
brain.
could go out there and sit over there because you're shitting on me. Anyway, morons.
Oh man, it is multiple choice time, and I've saved my favorite for last.
Oh,
Shane.
really? Good.
Shane. Good old. He's a TikTok challenge, wouldn't he be proud? Looking down from, I think, from heaven, but some might say no, from down there.
He's a TikTok challenge.
He is. His name is. There was a certain. I must get the lyrics. A certain man. In Russia long ago, he was big and strong, and his eyes a flaming glow. Most
Rah,
people
rah.
look. Rah, Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. There was the. How's this for terrible lyrics? Yeah. So the boy sings. Yeah, because it's Boney M that I'm singing.
Yeah.
Most people looked at him with terror and with fear, but to Moscow chicks, he was such a lovely dear. So Rasputin,
To be fair, the Moscow chicks did think he was a lovely deer.
Yeah, what
They
a
thought
life!
he
What
was
a
a hottie.
weird oak. Very. Yeah, I researched him quite extensively today, and
I actually, when I looked at this the assassination topic, I
yeah,
was like, Ryan he's gonna get all over this Rasputin, man.
he did.
And he did, yeah.
Born in Siberia to sort of peasant parents, farmer dude. He was also in the church.
A farmer dude.
Yeah, and first tragic thing. Is that one of my multiple choice things? I don't know. But I think let me give you the multiple choice.
Yes, do
facts,
that. That's
and
always
then you
safer.
can-
Yeah,
yeah.
that's always safer.
So which of these is not true? This is a Warren strategy. Which
Yeah.
of these is not true? He was killed by the Tsar's niece's husband. His daughter worked in an American circus as a lion tamer. He was an only child, and when he was killed, they cut off his penis. And
So
I'll
is
add
it-
to that, and I'll say there was one of the people in the conspiracy of killing had accused him of rape in the past.
Okay. So the thing about the lion tamer, his daughter working as a lion tamer in the West, is very similar to the current Russian propaganda minister whose son is a model, like is a top model in France. It's got this weird kind of echo to it. But all right, I know they cut his penis off. Because he was well known for it. He was well known for his apparently enlarged member. I don't know whether they did it. I don't know whether they did it after.
Old rah Rasputin.
Maybe they did it before they killed him. Maybe that's your out. But they definitely cut it off at some stage. Look, the thing about the niece being a conspirator, as far as I'm concerned, a niece is like a distant relative, could be anyone. So why not? And then we've got to go with the lion tamer thing, or the
Only child.
rape thing, or the only child.
No, the rape is connected to the dick cut off.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you see. All right.
You see, because one of the people in the assassination conspiracy had accused him previously of rape.
Okay. So then those are definitely true. So then is it the lion tamer thing?
Or the
Lion
only
tamer
child
thing is a
thing.
really nice one. I want to believe that he wasn't an only child. It's the only one left.
Yeah. So what's
See,
the
he
odd
wasn't
one?
an only child. is what
Wasn't
I'm
only
saying.
child. All right. So
I want to believe the lion tamer thing.
okay. Well, his daughter that he'd had with his wife, the daughter ended up being an only child. The couple died in infancy. Did go to America and work in a circus as a lion tamer.
Marvelous.
That's great. He was almost certainly shot by the Tsar's niece's husband because his weird lifestyle meant that they were getting really concerned with him, being so close to the Tsar and stuff. And then the other two was,
The penis cut off,
his mom and dad.
and he's an only child.
His mom and dad, after he was born, had 7 kids, which died in infancy, all of them. So
Hooray!
he was an only child.
I've broken my streak of
he
getting the
wasn't.
multiple choice wrong.
Wrong. And so an autopsy, despite the rumors, he had his dick very much with him.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
But you said they had 7 children, so he wasn't an only child.
He died in infancy, man.
Oh, they all died in infancy.
How
Okay.
sad is
He
that?
still wasn't an only child.
So to me, he's from Siberia, right? Then he they know very little about his childhood. Meets a girl, has a kid, then decides. To me, it's a bit of a cop out, but he needs to go on a spiritual journey. He goes to a monastery, has a conversion experience, but he's probably illiterate, and then starts gathering people in his hometown. And he talks to them about stuff, and they think, "Oh, that's quite cool." And I'm busy going.
You
through...
could have done it in a Russian accent.
It's
quite cool.
He talks about the God and spiritual. But in the book that I'm busy going through, the Brothers Karamazov, one of the opening chapters is a holy man called a starets. So he became a starets in a monastery, but he was a starets in his little thing. And then someone said, "You need to go to this other place, Kazan." Yes. And in there, there was definitely a charisma that people were drawn to. And then he started to really speak nicely. And the one monk said, "No, you got to go to St. Petersburg. You're the shit, man. You're really," and he started, that guy also taught him to read and write and taught him theology, and goes to St. Petersburg, and immediately with the aristocracy they think is amazing. And then at some point you got to meet the Tsar, and the Tsar had it in his diary, "Today I'm meeting the holy man, Rasputin," and he met him once, met him again. But the whole turning point was the son had hemophilia, and Rasputin came and prayed for him, and he got better. This is the freakish thing. So here's the 2 accounts I just want to leave you with.
Is that right? Alexander had the hemophilia.
Yeah, Alexei, I think they called him. During the summer of 1912, Alexei developed a hemorrhage in his thigh and groin after jolting carriage ride near the Royal Hunting Grounds at Spala, which caused a large hematoma. In severe pain and delirious with fever. Delirious, man. Delirious with fever. The Tsarevich appeared close to death. In desperation, Alexandra asked Vrubovia to send Rasputin, who was in Siberia, a telegram asking him to pray for Alexei. Rasputin wrote back quickly, telling Alexandra that God has seen your tears. This is the Tsarina. God has seen your tears and heard your prayers. Do not grieve. The little one will not die. Do not allow the doctors to bother him too much. The next morning, Alexei's condition was unchanged, but Alexandra was encouraged by the message and regained some hope that Alexei would survive. Alexei's bleeding stopped the following day. One of the physicians who attended Alexei admitted the recovery was wholly inexplicable from a medical point of view. Later, Dr. Blah, blah, blah admitted that Alexandra couldn't be blamed for seeing Rasputin as a miracle man. Rasputin would come in, walk up to a patient, look at him and spit. The bleeding would stop in no time. How could the Empress not trust Rasputin after that? So then there's all sorts of why, maybe is another explanation why he healed. Maybe the not being bothered by the doctors meant he could rest. But I don't know. But there was these 1 or 2 little moments that gave him his aha.
Listen, we know in the end he bled out.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So to me it's like it goes back to the question of the kind of religious charisma. It's like con man versus a weird kind of narcissist.
I think
who
the thing is that could have gone one of 2 ways, right?
Believes his own.
He could have phoned and he said, he phoned. He could have telegrammed and said, "Don't worry, your son will get better." And then the son dies, and then his whole career is down the toilet because now the whole family thinks he's a charlatan and they hate him. But he took the big chance, right? He saw the opportunity. And that's what they always say about life, all those motivational speakers. They say life is about seizing the opportunities when they're presented to you. And if you're a religious charlatan, there's no better opportunity ever that's going to be presented to you
than get in the household of the Tsarina.
Right, for the Tsarina to call you and say, "Please heal my son."
Yes.
What you do is you slap your hands together and you say it's done.
You spit on that hemorrhage,
That's
man.
right.
And so since then, she saw him as a holy man, and he basically lived in the palace, and he was allowed in and out of the girls' nursery, and that bothered people. And the stories of of like he sleeps with his followers and all sorts of cuck, and that's when it's like story after story after story. But maybe it's a bit like hot poker up to the ass. We don't know.
Yeah.
And so he was taken out at some point.
Yeah, people don't like a religious leader. Ask Jesus. They'll try to kill those guys at any
And I think his mystique has just gotten also grander because it wasn't long after that, within a year, that the revolution. So it was like, oh, the Tsar doesn't care about us. He's just got his holy man and weird, and this holy man's shagging all these chicks. But there is a story about his weird charisma. Like the one time he had a weirdness about him, and people thought, "Ooh, this is cool. It's a bit of a show, and he's going to tell you things about because he can read your thoughts and he can heal people."
Bobby Yaga.
But he would sometimes like stick his finger in the jam, and then he'd take
jam.
In the jam jar, in the jam.
Yeah.
Then he'd go to a woman, and he'd just like smear it on their face, and then they go, "Oh fuck, Rasputin's doing his thing." And then it's.
No, but how would you respond to that guy in real life?
And then
if you're in the spa and some 6'6" oak comes up to you with a tub of oh, there we go.
It's Dietz. He likes the story. He likes the story of Rasputin.
To turn off the lights so he could have some privacy.
Yeah, we can carry on, Eskom, hey? Oh, we're gonna pause for Eskom.
Now, if you're from anywhere other than South Africa, that was a sign we should stop talking about Rasputin. But if you're from South Africa, it's just load shedding. Anyway, so let's plow on. We're so close.
So he's so that's what he'd do. He'd like stick his fingers in the jam, and he'd go to the ladies and put it on their faces.
But no, so what I was gonna say about that was, like, if you're in the spa and somebody who looks like Victor Matfield, because Rasputin was tall, long, dark hair. Like if
his
he looks
eyes
like Victor,
a flaming glow, according to Boney M.
But if he looks like Victor Matfield and he comes up to you with a jam jar and he sticks 2 fingers in and he starts smearing it on your face, you're also going to go,
yes, sir, do that.
This is wonderful, thank you. Please keep smearing jam on me.
What a holy man Mr. Victor Matfield is. He's so holy.
Yeah.
And then he'd stick it in the lady's mouth and make her... lick his fingers.
That sounds slightly
nasty.
Sexual.
Sexual. You'd get the oddball that'd go, "Ooh, jam, I love it."
You'd get the oddball.
No, the oddball, not the oddball. Just start licking it. Oh, I'm digging this jam so much. Stop it, Ryan. Give me my hand back now. I love your jam. Start licking his whole hand. There's a new magic man in town. It's Ryan. He licked the whole of Rasputin's arm.
Yeah. Rasputin looked thoroughly horrified. He looked sickened with the process. It was like, put it all over your fist, Rasputin. Put it all over your fist.
That's enough, Ryan. Stop it.
Yeah. Horrible. And quite frankly, it leaves me with nowhere to go into my multiple choice. Because you can't transition from like the jam fist. You can't go from the jam fist to Mahatma Gandhi with like, you know what I mean? Like,
you got a nice guy.
Yeah, you can't be like, the jam fist. He's like, anyway, good. So Mahatma Gandhi, he would have loved a jam fist. Eh?
Let me
link this
poor
thing.
bugger.
Yeah.
And these hunger strikes, man. Lick a bit of Rasputin's finger there, please, Muhammad. Mahatma, not Muhammad. No. Sorry, Mahatma.
Yeah. Anyway, Mahatma Gandhi, he was assassinated at the age of 79. You know, which just always begs the question, why bother? When somebody's 79, death is going to do it for them any minute. You know, you don't have to assassinate him. Anyway, he was assassinated at 79
him a fright.
At a place called...
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just take his heart medication away for a day or two. You know, it's not... You don't have to do anything dramatic. Anyway, he was assassinated at 79 at a place called Burla House. It's now known as Ganda Smriti. I don't know how to say Smriti. I'm very sorry. It's in New Delhi. That's where it is.
Okay.
On January the 30th, 1948. Okay, these are all facts. He was assassinated by a guy by the name of Nathuram Godse, who was a prominent member of the Hindu Mahasabha. Gee, I really should have chosen something I could pronounce.
Difficult.
Mahasabha Rough one. Anyway, here are four facts
big,
about
big,
the
beautiful
assassination. 4 facts about the assassination, one of which I made up.
Yeah. I did a Warrenism.
Yeah. Gandhi was shot 3 times in the chest at point blank range with a Beretta M1934 semi-automatic pistol.
Jeez.
2 people were given the death sentence over the assassination, and 6 others received life sentences. 3. Godse had been caught twice before trying to assassinate Gandhi with a dagger, and before being successful on his 3rd attempt. 4. Gandhi's final words were, "You are not to shed a single tear."
Jeez. You know, nothing stands out as that far out. That's a tough one. You know, Gandhi's such a profound person. That's interesting to say those at the end, if he did. So the guy had tried before with a dagger. That's the one fact.
Twice before. He'd been caught trying twice before.
Yes, then it was shots to the chest. And then that fact about 2 were tried and 6
2 people were given death sentences, and 6 others were given life sentences over it.
The little I know about this, I still want to watch the movie. I really do, Ben Kingsley. But the little I know about this, I do think there was a number of people involved. So I'll go with that entourage of people.
Mm-hmm.
Was he shot though? Or was he stabbed? I don't know. I'm going to say maybe that's the one. Maybe he was just stabbed. But that's a terrible way to go. That's very Shaka Zulu, isn't it? Hey, he could have been one on tonight's episode.
Right.
So yes, maybe before the conspirators, maybe, or he could have said something different. Don't shed a tear. No, I'm going to say that he wasn't shot; he was stabbed. So that's your fact. That's wrong.
Brutal. Because that one was 100% correct. That one that he was shot 3 times.
He was shot 3 times.
Point blank range. The Beretta M1934 is a semi-automatic pistol. 2 people were indeed given the death sentences. Godse and a guy by the name of Narayan Apte, who was a fellow conspirator, were given death sentences, while 6 others, including Godse's brother Gopal, were sentenced to life imprisonment.
Sure.
Yeah, and Godse had in fact been caught twice before trying to assassinate Gandhi with a dagger. In May 1944, Godse attempted to assassinate Gandhi. He led a group of 15 to 20 young men who rushed at Gandhi during a prayer meeting.
And what year was that when they attempted
1944.
it? Okay, so 3 years before.
4 years, yeah. 4 so
years.
Godse and his group were prevented by the crowds from reaching Gandhi. And Godse was then released because Gandhi had a policy of not pressing criminal charges.
Good grief.
So then in September of 1944, so that's May 1944, the first one, September 1944, Godse again leads another group of people to block Gandhi's passage from Sevagram to Mumbai, and this time Godse was arrested with a dagger, and he uttered threats to kill Gandhi when he was arrested. He was released again, owing to Gandhi's policy of not pressing criminal charges. Yeah, so now his final words, and this is obviously the one that's wrong.
Yes.
So his final words are actually extremely controversial.
Oh.
The quote that I took from here comes from something he said 2 days before he was assassinated. He said, "If I am to die by the bullet of a madman, I must do so smiling. God must be in my heart and on my lips, and if anything happens, you are not to shed a single tear."
Wow, that's wonderful.
So he said that 2 days before he was assassinated. But then when he was assassinated, there's this big debate. At the time, it was reported that what he'd said was Hey Ram, which is kind of like, oh God,
I see.
for Hindus. And it's controversial because of his own religious stance and his own religious convictions and his own position. So people were saying he wouldn't have said Hey Ram. So there's some people say he wouldn't have said it. Whereas at many times in his life he said it would be a nice thing to say as his last words. He would like to say Hey Ram as his last words. So there's a big controversy. His family insist he said it.
Yeah.
There are other witnesses that say, it was too noisy. Nobody could have ever heard what he said. And one guy who was near him said, I don't think he said Hey Ram. I think he just kind of gasped.
Okay.
Yeah, and people have kind of misinterpreted it as Hey Ram. But it's a very big deal in India, what his last words possibly were. But officially it's Hey Ram.
Wow. I mean, that comes from the old mantra of Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. So the Ram part, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so there you go. So that's Mahatma Gandhi.
What a man. What a man.
Also, he slept naked with his nieces. So
Is it?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that before on this podcast. Just
I
thought I'd
don't
throw
think
that in there
so.
in case anyone's feeling too fucking sad about it.
I don't think we have mentioned the. And
Maybe we haven't,
he
but
spent
yeah.
some time. He's got a place
he
in
used to-
Joburg.
He used to sleep naked with his nieces because he was testing himself, which sounds a bit creepy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, let's put that in just in case anybody looked at this whole thing and went, "Oh, no, of all the people here, he and Chris Harney didn't deserve to die." You're wrong. Only Chris Harney.
So where are we going to go test ourselves later tonight then? Oh, sorry. We're still rolling.
Yeah, that was a good one. Thank you. Please subscribe.
Very
I
good.
mean, honestly, if you've watched this whole way, you've probably already subscribed. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Share with your friends. Put it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Do a dance. And save up money to one day buy us a coffee
Yes.
when we get together enough.
Going to be buy us a pizza. We'll start a new Patreon. Buy us a pizza.
Yeah.
Buy us a burger. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what do I always say? If we don't see you tonight, or then good afternoon and good morning, and I'll see you next week.
Or maybe if the lights come
Maybe.
back on.
Keep the faith. Hey, Ram. Keep the faith, man.
Goodbye.
Ciao.